So everyone either leave or say got it. And Paul, we can go to the next slide. So before we jump into the agenda, and since this is an open forum, our legal team has provided me with a script that I'm required to read verbatim. I'm speaking today in my official capacity on behalf of the FedRAMP Program Management Office at the GSA. To ensure effective engagement and transparency with industry, I'll be sharing information based on what I know at the present time. The information I plan to share today is provided to enhance transparency between industry and the FedRAMP PMO. But it is possible that some of this information may change at a later date because no final decisions have been made at this time. My commitment to you is to continue this dialogue and share any new developments as soon as I can. Additionally, any reference in this conversation to any specific commercial product, process, or service, or to the use of any trade, firm, or corporation name is for the information and convenience of the public and does not constitute endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by the GSA. And then for today's agenda, so first we're going to recap our working group focus areas and how we'll operate. Next, we're going to summarize our discussion forum and highlight the major themes and questions. And lastly, go over how we're using your feedback to inform our work and briefly discuss what's on the horizon. Next slide. So as a recap, I know you all have heard this during our kickoffs. We're just going to do another recap of this on how we're going to work and how we're going to be structured as a working group. So following today's meeting, we intend to meet bi-weekly for 30 minutes to an hour. So these meetings will be touch points to provide updates on progress, both within this group, the greater FedRAMP 20X community, and opportunities for live demos. But these meetings are not intended to be utilized for collaboration on activities, gaining consensus, or making decisions. So the majority of the engagement work within this group should be done in our GitHub discussion forum. Myself, Paul, and AJ will work to facilitate discussions and work through problems identified within the forum. Next slide. And we really want to thank you all for the great feedback so far. So as of yesterday, our discussion forum includes 15 individual discussion topics, 70 top-level comments, 29 comment replies, and includes 151 unique users. And we also wanted to recognize the top individual contributors over the past few weeks. So thank you all again for your valuable help and support. By participating, please know that you're helping to contribute to the future of FedRAMP, and your input will help inform future FedRAMP standards. So next, Paul's going to highlight some of the key themes and ideas we've seen in our discussion forum. Next slide.
Hello, team. Hey, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Paul Augusta. I'm part of the team that actually runs the Rev 5 continuous monitoring working group, and I'm stepping in for Sam today, who could not be here. John talked a little bit about how GitHub was the main mechanism for engagement when it comes to the development of FedRAMP 20X and continuous reporting. I'd like to talk a little bit about how and what happens kind of on the back end behind the scenes. And talk a little bit about what's on the horizon in terms of changes for FedRAMP 20X and Rev 5 as well. Each week, our working group does a roll-up of discussion points and themes. We do this across all 4 forums, and we do this using an internal AI tool within GSA. Shout out to our data science team who helped put that together. This helps us identify key points of discussion, new relative ideas, without having to individually delve through hundreds of comments across all 4 working groups. These themes and ideas help us prioritize some of our work effort areas, but more importantly, inform some of the standard development that's in the process or in the pipeline. Below are 2 themes that we pulled out from this discussion group that have ties to some of the standards in development, as well as some of the standards currently working through the pipeline and that have triggered some good discussion across the forum. The first one is from G. Ponto that basically indicates that there's a ripeness throughout the community based on the current tools for automation and continuous monitoring, vice the traditional method of toss a dozen files over the fence that then have to be normalized by an agency or a secondary person in order to glean insights. The second one from Quick Brown Fox that talks a little bit about moving towards a more information-centric approach, utilizing dashboards as well. Those themes have kind of gone up across some of the working groups as well. So it's good to see kind of the themes develop. We'll move to the next slide here. Moving away from chucking numerous spreadsheets into shared drives and moving towards a more information-driven or KSI approach to continuous monitoring is something that's actually being worked on. If you are part of the Rev 5 continuous monitoring working group, which is tied very closely to this working group as well, because we see it very evolutionary in nature. There's actually draft standards in the process of being developed that we expect to be released next month in terms of a KSI approach to continuous monitoring, which a lot of the previous messaging kind of ran into or talked about. If you're tracking discussions in both the groups, you can clearly start to see the ties and recommendations across both the communities, and those should be updated in the draft standards as they're being developed. Speaking of new standards dropping, if you are not tracking, as of about 4 or 5 minutes ago, FedRAMP released for public comment 3 new standards. They're on the website. If you go directly to the website, you can drop down. There's a blog post kind of summarizing everything as well. But I'll talk real quickly about the standards being pushed. First off, there's a standard in draft for the minimum assessment scope standards, and that will actually replace the current boundary guidance. Secondly, the Rev 5 continuous monitoring working group released a draft standard for significant change notification, and that's intended to replace the current significant change request guidance to a much more lightweight approach, giving cloud service providers a little bit more agility towards change. Our automating assessments working group just released a standard for automating assessments through key security indicators, and there's a draft and a pilot program that's being released as part of the RFC, the request for comments. We'll be publishing, or I guess we did publish a blog post that went out, like I said, about 5 minutes ago. If you're interested in providing formal feedback, I think this is the important part, right? As we're developing standards, we are utilizing the comments in the discussion forum. The moment we put out a formal RFC or request for comments, we can no longer take input from the forums in that particular topic. Any input on those draft standards have to be done through the formal request for comment process that's on the website itself. So please, if you do have feedback, I promise you we will work through those as we get those. Please use that mechanism. And like I said, it's published on our website. Each draft document has its own request for comments and its own process, and it's all documented there for you. And then let's talk about discussion starters, right? Throughout the weeks, the team will drop new discussion posts, right? They're all well-intended, right? These posts are designed to garner feedback based on either standards that we have currently in development, or to help spur conversations in areas where we need feedback in order to either prioritize work or start standard development work. When you answer, I would ask that you not answer from more of today's lens, right? I'd ask that you more take of like the art of the possible, right? As we work through kind of the iterations of going from Rev 5 to going to FedRAMP 20X. The first question is about automation, right? How does FedRAMP facilitate automated decision making between agencies and customers that is efficient and scalable, right? I think this goes back to some of the discussion points that I think G. Ponto had in the other one. There's a lot of tools available today that we're leveraging. We're just not leveraging it in our processes internally, right? And I think there's a lot of ripeness for automation. Secondly is how do we incorporate data into reporting output that facilitate easy integration and consolidated risk posture? Once again, goes back to instead of chucking spreadsheets over the fence that somebody then has to delve through and glean insights, right? How do we do that in a more automated fashion that gives folks a risk picture? I think it was Brown Fox was the other one we put up there that talked about creating a dashboard in order to help that, right? And how do we visualize and report KSIs and other information over time in a manner that's meaningful to decision makers, right? Currently, we look mostly at like month snapshots in time, but in all reality, right? Like that, there's a posture that can be gleaned from looking at metrics over time. Those 3 questions are actually live on the discussion forums today. Like I said, we do read all the feedback that is provided, and it definitely helps us draft scope standards as we're working through those development. Yes, like I said, they're live, and I believe I'm passing it back to you, John.
Yeah, so in the spirit of keeping this brief and to the point, that's all we have for you today. Following today's meeting, we plan on hosting another recap session in about 2 weeks. We're tentatively holding the date for Thursday, May 8th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as a reminder, if you're interested in bringing forward, as Paul mentioned, a topic, prototype, or idea, please do post in our discussion forum. So again, that's all we have for you today. Thanks again for participating and joining and listening to us today. The recording link will be posted in GitHub. And if you have any remaining questions, please do post them in our discussion forum. So thank you again. And have a good rest of your afternoon.
Awesome. And I just posted the blog to the new draft standards out there. So please, if you've got time, we're giving you 15 minutes back. So it's a perfect, excellent opportunity to go check them out. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.